Sellers, what's going on, King?
What's happening, homie?
Yo, man, we're in a special location right now, right here in New York City. But we're also right above SOBs. And I don't know if you remember, but I necessarily remember. Maybe about 2 years ago, you had a show here.
For
Can
sure.
you speak to that moment, and then we'll kind of delve into some other things?
Yeah. Well, first off, man, thank you for sitting down with me.
I'm happy to be here, brother.
Yeah, 2 years ago this time, I was at SOBs, which was pretty much when I first moved to New York. So that being a legendary venue, always being a place that I had heard of and wanted to perform, I never thought I'd actually have the opportunity to perform there. It was a BET showcase, still a powerful moment, and kind of I'm still riding that momentum now, just with the connections and things I've been able to do. So,
And you've had your parents there, too. What was it like performing in front of your parents at that time, too?
man, they kind of got a glimpse that I wasn't just out here wasting my time. Like coming from Atlanta and just being in New York in a new city, I was showing them what I've been working hard towards. So,
Man, it's kind of like I can speak to. It's kind of different when you have your parents behind you, your mom behind you, and they see you kind of going after your dreams and your goals that you've really been just trying to bring to life. Now that we're in 2019, and you got a new project out, you're a new man, you're married now. Like, how do you get to this place where you put out this new body of work, and to be what it is today? Like, how did you get to this point?
when I tell you it's been really just determination, I feel like since I've moved to New York, I've been learning how to navigate all the different nuances of what it means to be an artist in this saturated market. Everybody's a rapper now. In a way, it's kind of trendy to be a rapper. And so I've had to figure out ways to separate myself and stand the test of time, because I started when I was 8 years old, but to continue to find ways to give people something fresh and new while also staying grounded and rooted in my sound and who I am. So it's just hard work and determination at this point.
You mentioned sound. Now things are a little different with this project. The last one, it was more gospel vibes,
For sure.
and now we're stepping into a new realm where you have R&B. You're bringing love together. Has there been a change in what your audience is saying as far as feedback? What are you hearing from your fans?
Yeah, man. I love, number one, the fact that this new season I'm in with this album represents kind of like, I feel like I'm an adult for the first time. I've been an adult, they say after you're 18, but I'm married. I'm now responsible for another life. And that, with music being a pure expression of where I am in my life, I feel like every album tells kind of like the chapter that I'm in. So I felt like I couldn't be more honest than to talk about me being in this new space. And with me being newly married, naturally love is on my mind, romance, relationship. So I just felt like it was leading me toward a whole different direction of melody and smoothness of the sounds. And so I just kind of challenged myself to go more R&B route, and I've got a lot of backlash for it, dude. It's been crazy heat.
I mean, how are you dealing with that? How are you dealing with that backlash, and how do you stand firm, and how you feel in that new love that you feel right now?
I got a little vision board in my crib, and I have written on there that I'm successful because I'm doing what God wants me to do and not what man wants me to do.
Talk about it.
And I have to look at that every day, because I've said some things in this album that people say that I shouldn't say. I've used language that people said I shouldn't have used. But I feel like I'm being the most honest and purely expressive artist that I can be at this point. I'm talking about conflict. I'm talking about real life issues that you can't just sugarcoat. And when you're in conflict, you don't always say words that you grew up being taught to use. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, real things come out. And I talked about that, and I touched on those sensitive subjects in a way where people couldn't really ignore it.
It sounds like as you've become more comfortable with saying these words, and becoming more grown and more mature with these I guess flagrant words that you're using, that you're stepping into who you are as a man. And I'm just thinking about the word growth, because I remember just us as freshmen in college at Howard University.
For real.
Like how we've grown as men since then. Like, how do you feel going into like being just the head of a household? I'm sure she's the head of the household also, but like, how does it feel having that pressure and that responsibility to lead your family into whatever said dreams that you have for yourself?
Man, so the pressure is there for sure to make sure I'm leading well. But really, I feel like everything stems from love.
Yeah.
If I'm sacrificing my desires, my needs to make sure that she's ultimately well, that she's healthy, that she's loved, that she's empowered to be successful, thrive, and accomplish her dreams, then at that point I'm loving well, which automatically translates to me leading well. And I feel like that's the big heart of this album, and why it's so different for culture is because we equate love to just being a feeling. And in this album, I completely showed that love is actually something you have to do every day. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with admitting that, because then it makes love not attractive. If I say that I love my wife and I use that same phrase with I love pizza, then the day that I've had too much pizza and I'm tired of pizza, then does that mean I leave pizza to the side? Does that mean I leave my wife to the side if I've been around her too much?
Yeah.
So my album has challenged the status quo in a way where we really have to put some action beyond our words. And it's shown how I'm leading, but it's also challenged me to actually man up and do what I'm talking about.
Man, one of my favorite songs on the album is Games We Play. And it's because one, it has that just R&B vibe, and I'm just an R&B head. But, like, how did you come around to knowing that you were, you know, wasting somebody else's time and wasting your time, and that you could be losing out on something that could be your queen? Like, how did you come to that fruition? Like, I mean, not that fruition, but just that moment to say, hey, I need to stop playing. I need to buckle down and get on this.
Dude, when I tell you, man, I couldn't have came to that realization without having good people around me, because I think when we talk about fear of commitment, it's something everybody has. Everybody's afraid that there's always going to be somebody better.
And do we think black men in particular have that fear? Like we gonna miss out on something that's still on the yard, or still running around New York City trying to chase the baddest joint?
See, I can talk to you because you know where we came from. You know where we came from. Speaking about, so Howard did a lot for me. But I also had to be real with myself about some of the pressures that Howard placed on me. I was potentially about to miss out on an amazing woman, because I do believe fully in my heart that because this world doesn't show our black women the love and value that they deserve, that I was going to make sure my life depended on making sure I showed that. And I fell into this narrative that said, if I don't end up with a black woman, then I'm automatically dissing them. And that's not true. And I felt that pressure from my school, my friends, my peers, and my family, because they all HBCU alum. And it took me having some of those real conversations with people around me that forced me to talk about, okay, what character does this woman have that's going to grow me into a better man outside of just what she looks like and what I'm comfortable with? And those conversations were difficult because it peeled back layers of my heart that showed me that I was focused on people pleasing and a lot of superficial things that weren't going to grow me into a man. And ultimately, when you're faced with that person in the mirror, it makes you realize I've got to take some risk here. And I couldn't let her go, man.
Wow, that's crazy. You mentioned having just a solid group of people around you, and I think you can really tell a man about, and you can tell what a man stands for about the people that he has around him.
For sure.
Now, in the album, in some interludes, you asking someone for advice on the very last track, and I'm curious to why you put that at the end and not as the first track where you're asking for permission. Can you talk about the thought process behind that, and who did you actually go to for advice, and who did you pray with prior to asking for permission? Yeah,
man. So the album, the interludes are actually a story, real conversations that I've had with both of the fathers, the father of my now wife and my dad. And he's always been my hero. He's always been a man who I've been able to go to for counsel and just told me things straight, things I didn't want to hear at times, challenged me. And so when I called him initially and told him, hey, I think I'm about to call her dad, I'm about to make this move, I'm about to declare my love, I'm about to ask for permission, just like any good father would do, he had to check me first and make sure that I wasn't going to make a fool of myself. So he took me through a series of life questions. Do you know that love and the emotions and the excitement of love fades, and that on the day that you tell her you love her, 3 months down the line, you may not feel that way, but you in it. Are you going to dip and leave? You know, how are you going to be able to provide for her? What life can you assure for her that her father is going to be comfortable saying, okay, I'll send my daughter to be yours? So these questions really made me think about what I was walking into in a way where it wasn't a game anymore. And I felt the irony of it was, in the first track of the album, you hear me asking her father for permission. But then if you listen to the album and get to the last track, you actually hear that I was starting that with a conversation with my own dad. So when you replay it, it kind of comes back full circle.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, I like the thought process behind that. Is that something that you want young men to kind of learn from listening to your projects?
Yeah, I think as a culture, man, we've gotten away from understanding that when we tell a woman we love her and we ask for her hand in marriage, we're essentially telling her, I vow to promise you a better life than the life your parents gave you, which is a big statement. And I don't think we like to look at it at times because it is pressure on us. But when we take ownership of that, it makes us look in the mirror and say, I've got to live up to my statement. And I think that a lot of problem with our commitments nowadays is we base them too much on, just the constant thing that we're talking about, feeling. And covenant and commitment endures hardship, trial, sickness, all those things. So I do think that it's important for us to get back to letting the woman know that we are going to take care of her and asking for permission from the parents.
Now, because you made this transition towards more of a R&B and love vibe, do you feel like you were pressured to do so to kind of chase this commercial success? Do you feel like it's easier on the listener's ear to, hear some nice bass behind a vocal track? What was your goal in kind of making a pivot when it came to music?
Man, so I'm constantly, especially living in New York now, I meet a rapper every day. And I feel like the test of the difference between a rapper and an artist is how you can adapt to the changing climate. So I'm an artist that I know if people get tired of hearing lyrics for a time and they just want some chill music, I know I can do that. But when it comes time where they really want something that's going to feed their soul, I can give them that too. Yeah. And you can run into artists every day who can only do one. And I'm going to show you that no matter what you need, I've got the recipe for you. And I feel like all our legends that we admire, the Drakes, the Kanyes, the people who've been here for 10 plus years in the game, they've showed us that no album sounds the same. They can give you whatever the climate throws at you, and they will be there. So I feel like that's what I'm showing when I test people with R&B, hip hop. Next album might be jazz. I'm not going to box myself in because I know at the end of the day, I'm here to stay.
And it's not that you're just one trick pony. Like, this seems to be a marathon for you, because even in this album, you also see you see I guess tidbits of the gospel word in there also. So it's not like you're shying away from being a Christian rapper. Is this something that you really want to keep pushing, also dropping the medicine and the candy too?
Man, exactly what you said, the medicine and the candy. Like, I'm going to give people what they want, but I'm always going to give them what they need because that's who I am. So I will never be able to make an album that doesn't have the gospel message in it because that's in my heart. And if I want to continue creating pure music from the heart, it's always going to have what's important to me. But I've learned that as I've grown, there is such a power of being able to control the microphone in a culturally relevant way and speaking to the needs of what people are talking about. So if the conversation right now is moving in a certain way, then I've got to be wise and have that conversation with them and still give them everything that I need.
So going forward, what is your hope that, your new fans, new listeners will get from your project that's out now, available on all platforms? What do you want them to get from you, and how can they stay locked into you?
Man, so the main thing I would love to give people with this project is that I'm an artist who's not afraid to make mistakes. I've already determined that this whole project, I could be wrong. I never want to assert myself as the expert on anything. And my main prayer through making this project was, Lord, if I'm wrong, let me not hinder your work. And so with that being said, I'm going to take a million risks in front of the eyes of the whole world. And I just hope that at the end of the day, they can see that my heart is honest and pure for God. And no matter if it's uncomfortable at times, I hope they stick with me through the journey and know that they can trust me as a man of my word, and know that if I tell them that I started this thing with God, I'm going to finish it with him.
So I love that you understand the responsibility behind the power of this microphone. Please tell the people the name of the project, where they can check it out, and where they can follow you on social media.
Man, my name is Sellers Hamilton. This new album, Washing Her Feet, is the album of the year. This album is going to change culture, is changing culture. And you can follow me everywhere online at sellershamilton.com, as well as on all social networks. And I thank y'all for the support.
Appreciate you, King.
For sure. Love. Appreciate you.